We are sharing screen.
Button of available text. Menu. Feature. Even menus. Windows tab. Google Hangouts. Alt tab. New browser window. Web display. Alt tab. Alt tab. Web 061014. PowerPoint slideshow Web 061014.
Let me make sure that those two are the front two windows. Oh, sure. And I just want to let me escape out of. Yeah. Okay, so that's the PowerPoint presentation. And
Alt tab. Web presentation June 10, 2014.
So I don't want that one.
Web 061014. EPTX Alt tab. Web Alt tab. Google Hangouts Internet Alt tab. Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, and integration Mozilla Firefox. Web accessibility.
Okay, so now I should just be able to alt tab between those two as the front two.
Let me get to the.
Web 061014. EPTX Alt tab. Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, university of
There when you get there.
Okay, perfect. Like this?
Web accessibility.
Here, right there. Okay.
Web accessibility is architecture, platforms.
That's weird. So we'll have to look at this afterward. Some weird stuff pops up in the browser whenever I hit refresh.
Navigation region. Web
You know,
accessibility.
it's a this is a problem.
What?
Page has rating.
Maybe it's my add-ons. I should turn them off really quickly.
Okay. How do you do that?
Carolyn, can you come turn the Firefox add-ons off? I hope not.
There's all this weird pop-ups that happen whenever you move between.
Do you know your food scraps from your bottles and cans? Your chance to prove it. Win
Where is this
prizes,
coming
learn
from?
tips, and test your recycling knowledge. Go to Ready, Set, Recycle.
I don't know what that is coming from.
I don't know.
Easy inline advertisement. You hit that. Trying to close it, but it's not doing anything.
Recycle.org.
Should we restart the browser?
Those only started
Recycling
popping up
Wizard
today.
That is crazy. On all sites?
It's just.
Well,
on
we've only ever
Firefox.
been on this site today.
Okay. Well.
I'm going to turn my phone off while you guys.
I'm gonna plug back into the projector and just worry about.
Okay. Is this mount? This stuff. I'm not able to click on that. It's just popping up. I don't know what it's
Can we quit Firefox and start it again?
I got a virus or something wrong with them?
Alt tab. Web 0610. Alt tab. Web accessibility of the new. No selection.
I'm starting Firefox.
Okay. It's bookmarked in there.
Mozilla Firefox. About blank. Page has no link. About.
I might restart it and see if I can.
That would work.
Blank.
Where's your menu bar?
F11.
F11.
Nope.
F11.
F12? No, that's.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is.
Google Mozilla Firefox. Web HP. Google Mozilla Firefox. Search edit. Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, and integration Mozilla Firefox.
Yeah, you've got something that has installed itself and is popping up inline advertisements.
Can
Oh,
we use a different browser for?
okay. Is there anything we're doing in ARIA that won't pop up?
IE? Can you use IE?
I can use IE, but I'm wondering if all the ARIA stuff shows up. Yes, we're only using landmarks, so
Let's
we'll
do
be
that.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Web presentation. Zoom. New browser window. Google Hangouts. Internet Explorer. Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts. Alt N.
I haven't installed anything. It just happens like this morning.
Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, and integration.
Unless it was while we were trying to install
Web
that
accessibility is
video
architecture,
driver.
platforms, and integration. Web
Do you want
accessibility
to just
is
go for
architecture,
Firefox, or do you want to open a new
platforms,
window in IE?
We can open a new window in IE, that's fine. Does our site look okay in IE?
Web presentation, June 10,
Okay.
2014, Google Internet Explorer.
I thought there
Web
was something.
presentation, June 10, 2014, Google Start button, new tab page, home link.
Do you want a new
Web
tab or a new
presentation,
window?
June
New
10,
window.
20 New tab page.
And then I want just the PowerPoint and it to be the front two windows. Does that make sense?
Enter new tab page. Document page has 4 regions, 9 headings and
It
44
is
links.
showing up on IE as well.
Platform, page link, jump to navigation.
This is nuts. Okay, so we should just go back to Firefox in that case.
Yeah.
Yep, it's showing up on everything.
Information technology accessibility policy effective August 27, 2013.
Can we turn off JAWS too?
Yeah. Caps lock F4. We'll do it.
Unloading JAWS. Quick JAWS dialog. Are you sure you?
So what do you want to do? It's showing up on every browser.
Let's do it in Firefox because I know Firefox works best.
Okay.
Do we have somebody in the room who might know how to get rid of it? Bill or Tom? No?
Keyboard shortcuts are not what I'm used to. Healthy dessert recipes, is it related? Yeah, I think that's the best we can do. So what to turn on JAWS again?
Go to Tool or go to the Tools menu and turn off the add-ons. I think that'll do it.
How do you get to the tools menu?
Alt-T.
Tools. How do you do the restart menu?
The start
Restart Firefox. How do you restart Firefox in safe mode?
Yeah. Alt-F.
Can't work offline.
Try right-clicking on it on the desktop. Maybe it will
Help.
do it.
Restart with add-ons disabled.
There we go.
Okay.
Would have to be today, right?
It would. Yep, still showing up. So, we'll just do the best we can.
Kathleen, move here for a sec.
What is your Alt-Tab thing doing?
Oh, Alt-Tab should go windowed. I think I got a virus.
Probably when you were installing the video driver. Okay, now you're on the presentation in presenter
Okay,
mode.
so no, I'm going to go out of here.
Can you disable pop-ups?
We tried to.
We've tried to restart it in safe mode. Still showing up.
Did you want to? Is this extreme enough that you want to switch laptops?
I'm not noticing them.
Do you want to?
Do you want to get your laptop ready in case if this happens, we can just, once she's done with the screen reader, obviously, we can definitely swap and use the laptop.
Sure. So Firefox.
Okay, so there's all that.
Alt-Tab, Google Alt-Tab, Web presentation, Alt-Tab, Web 06, Alt-Tab, Web accessibility is architecture, platforms and integration with Firefox, Web accessibility is architecture, platforms and integration.
So let me just practice.
Alt-Tab, PowerPoint slideshow, Alt-Tab, Web accessibility is architecture, Alt-Tab, PowerPoint
Okay, so that's working fine. So let's
So
start.
just go through your slides and do a screen demo, because exactly, we can use another laptop on there.
Exactly.
The new UC White Web accessor, slide 1.
Okay, so Alt-S. Is it already in full screen? Is it presenting?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it happens, just, do you want to stand by to like close out of it? Can you close the, I mean, you can close out of the windows of Papa, right?
Can you close the ad out? You're going to do that when the ad comes
I'm
on?
saying if something comes up,
Yeah, there's just a bunch of windows.
apologize and just close out of it so she can get through her part. But if we, once we're done with the screen reader, if it happens, we can just swap back to your laptop.
Okay.
Does that work?
Sure. Literally, it's just this morning. I can't believe this. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of
It could be something that happened with this install, but
Yeah.
we know you need to make excuses. We'll just apologize for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. How are we doing for time here?
We're good. I mean, it's still under Berkeley time, so it's
12:08
12.
p.m.
It's 12:08. We have 2 minutes. Do I have time to run to the water fountain? No. No. We're waiting for Berkeley time. At the podium. Kathleen, did you want me to introduce them? Yeah. Oh, past Mr. Okay. You're good now. Yeah, you're up. Yeah.
Okay.
You're up.
It's high tech over here. So I guess the microphone is the built-in on the
Yes.
laptop?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stand here so that the people out in the Hangout and the recording will pick up my voice. I'm Bill Allison from IST. Welcome to the annual Accessibility Forum at Webnet. And I think it was a few years ago, it seems like a few years ago, that I was here talking about accessibility and our commitment to accessibility. And I'm going to introduce some folks, and I think, you know, as I was thinking about this, it really, I think this is an example, accessibility here at Berkeley is an example of how we have become really, thanks to the work of Lucy Greco and Carolyn Boyden, I want to call out especially, starting a grassroots movement at Berkeley, which is kind of what we do, and really have kept this alive and driven things forward. We're influencing the way the whole world is thinking about accessibility and web accessibility. So really wanted to call that out. And so I think it was probably about 8 years ago that that movement started. And I think I was running a web development team. And once we found out about that, every project that we were doing was going to go talk to Lucy. And it just, our experience was that as people saw the world through their eyes, it changed the way we thought about accessibility, sort of in a big picture way. And in 2012, Sarah Hawthorne, who is the UC's Berkeley's Associate Counsel and the Assistant Provost over disability and accessibility related issues, called me up and said, you know, we have an opportunity here to take something that's been grassroots and let IST do the right thing and help out. And so we, I think in 2012, did a kind of we started this ball rolling. In 2013, it became a formally funded unit in my department for web accessibility. It's a part of the web platforms team, which is led by Kathleen Liu, who's sitting over there, watching all of this, and Anna Gazdowicz joined our team, and now we have a real formal offering. And well, that's a good thing, because August 27th of last year, there was an official UC policy around accessibility, and you'll hear more about that today. So I'm not going to go on and on, but I'd like to bring up Ben Gold. He's representing the Office of the CIO, and he's in charge of all communications-related things, and he's going to talk a little bit about the partnership at the Office of the CIO level with this team.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. I do just want to say, kind of echoing what Bill has said, that the Office of the CIO and Larry Conrad, our CIO, and the executive team completely support all of the efforts that are going on and are really looking to lead it. Personally, my team has been working to redesign the CIO site and the IST site, and we're in the process of that now, and that's been hand in hand with this team to make sure that those sites are accessible to everyone on campus. Again, the leadership team supports it. We want to be involved in it and encourage everybody else to do those, to take those actions as well, and to talk to the team if you have questions and you know, want to make sure that the sites you're working on are accessible. Personally, it's been a great experience working with them. I encourage it for everybody. They've been extremely helpful and bringing up issues and helping us work through issues that we know we've had with some of the sites. So that's all I'll really say. But if anybody has any questions for me about our experience or what we've been doing as we've been working on our sites, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
And I would like to now bring up Sarah Hawthorne, who has been really a major champion, sort of at the executive level, helping to make this all happen.
So it's really exciting for me to be here because it just represents the ongoing development on our campus, the leadership that we've taken in the UC system as a whole for moving our campus towards web accessibility. And you're going to hear a lot more about the details of that. But I wanted to just briefly set a framework for how you think about it, because whenever there's a policy, the policy represents really two things. One is our mission and our commitment to inclusiveness here at the campus to make sure that the information we give others are also, given to folks with disabilities. And also, this policy enables our campus to meet its obligations, its legal obligations under the American with Disabilities Act. And to just kind of clarify, I thought the most helpful thing I might be able to say before you hear more about the policy itself is the distinction between being in conformity with the web access standard that's set out in the policy. You'll hear it referred to as WCAG 2.0 AA. This is really important because prior to that, whenever we talked about web accessibility, there's kind of a lot of different ideas and confusion about what does that really mean. And by us having a standard, we can now develop what's called a culture of professional competence, meaning that there's something really specific as a skill level that we're asking our web developers and programmers to be able to do and to embed in all of the web access sites that they build, all of the websites that they build. The distinction between my office, which is called disability compliance, is that if there's somebody who's having difficulty with accessing a web page, their first contact under the problem-solving procedures that are set out, and you'll see it on our web page later, but is to contact the campus unit programmer or developer, the webmaster for that unit. It's not to go directly to IT, and in fact, IT doesn't usually deal directly with the individual who may be having access problems. So they go first to the campus unit, webmaster, and they see if they can resolve it, and we're encouraging a webmaster who has that complaint or problem raised by an individual to then consult with IST. That's really IST's role, is to support the campus units in bringing their websites up to the accessible standard. If the individual is still not having a successful experience with the website and the webmaster feels like he's done all he could, then the person can formally file a complaint with my office, disability compliance. But I'm stressing this because I want to make sure all of you understand that you're not getting caught in having to be the police of the policy. You're there to support the folks who are trying to meet the standards that we've got. And this is why this is such a great unit, is that there's such an active set of resources that our campus is offering for folks to be able to bring their website up to a way that folks with disabilities will be able to access it. So again, I'm Assistant Provost of Disability Compliance, and it's my job to sort of make sure that things on the campus get what they need in order to be able to implement this exciting new policy that you'll be hearing more about. So look forward to it, and you're really, really lucky to have these guys working for you, because I've had a chance to know them for several years, and we couldn't be more blessed than we are with Frances, is really my favorite, which, if you haven't seen her up at the front, is Lucy's guide dog. So.
Hello. Greetings to everyone. I'm Lucy Greco. I'm the Campus Accessibility Evangelist, which means I'm here to convert you to the way of accessibility. Nothing to do with religion. It's all about the passion I have.
Amen.
So let's get started. I'm going to start with a little bit about the policy, which I'm very proud of this policy. Myself and a team of people worked on this policy for 8.5 years, and we were this close from not passing it, and we got it. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to demonstrate a screen reader to those of you who've not seen one, and then we'll go through our program and tell you how we're here to really help you besides just have a good fun showing you a screen reader.
Slide 2. Why would a university need a policy?
But I can stop it.
Okay. So we're kind of going to tag team this, and I'm going to read off the slides for Lucy's sake, and then she's going to expand upon the points.
Yeah.
So why would a university need a policy on accessibility? In most cases, the law is clear and to the point for post-secondary education. In the case of University of California, law was unclear and specifically vague. Individuals working on websites wanted to do the right thing, but were unsure of where to begin.
So what that really means is, some of you who've been here for quite a while and working with the web accessibility team, just a quick aye so I can hear those of our old friends in the audience that you're here. Aye. Okay, good. You remember that we used to talk about things like Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act and W3C, and we weren't really sure which of those applied to Berkeley and which of those applied to UC, because parts of them did and parts of them didn't, and there was no real clarification from administration that said, we're going to follow this standard. Everybody agreed in principle that, yeah, we needed to be accessible. We needed to have content and websites that people with disabilities could read, because we're good people at Berkeley. I work here because the people I work with all care and all want to make a difference. But we didn't have guidance and we didn't have clearance. So the policy came out and actually gave us a specific guidance and said that we would follow the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, accessibility guidelines, and to be very specific, it says, 2.0 AA. What does that mean? Well, we've got a bunch of information that helps you understand that on our website. But
slide 3.
So creating the Electronic Accessibility Leadership Team. In 2007-2008, the UC IT Leadership Council formed a committee to guide the future initiative for electronic accessibility. This committee was required to have 1 or 2 representatives from every campus and other UC affiliates. The role of these representatives was to report on progress and ideas shared throughout the system.
So that committee still stands today. That's the committee that wrote the policy. 2008 was when it was first formalized. Like everything else, the grassroots initiative started here at Berkeley, but there was a bunch of volunteer people, and those volunteers tried to write a policy in 2007, and nobody liked the policy, and the policy didn't pass. So in 2008, at that point in time, Shel Wagner appointed myself and Sarah Hawthorne to this leadership committee for Berkeley. Today, Anna, myself, and Sarah still sit on this committee, and that committee wrote the policy, and today the policy is in place.
Slide 4. Reaching the finish.
Reaching the finish line.
Lucy mentioned that you're chair of that at this point, of the whole UC.
Oh, yes.
No big deal. So over a period of 2.5 years, the policy went through intense revisions, including feedback from all over the system. Changes were added that allowed for accommodation based on individual campus need. When forwarding the policy to constituent groups, the working group would engage to ensure that the feedback would be included in future edits.
Okay, so what that means, again, sorry we're tag teaming it here on for everybody, is that we worked on the policy, we sent out, this time we really involved everyone at UC. We went to different constituent groups and we said, okay, how do you like it? And they said, for example, there was a point in that policy that said each campus must appoint an officer, and that officer must be the director of accessibility. And campuses like, for example, Merced said, we're too small to appoint an officer. We don't want to appoint an officer. Maybe we can just have a committee. So the policy was flexible. We changed it. We said, okay, you can have a committee. And now the policy leaves it up to the campuses to decide. And our campus does it both ways, just so you know.
Slide 5. At last, a policy.
There we go.
At last, a policy achieved. So on August 27, 2013, UC President Mark Udoff signed the final UC Information Technology Accessibility Policy. And I'll give you $20 if you say that 5 times fast. That's the link to the policy should you want to visit it and read all the gory details.
And that link is also front and center on our homepage. All right, so I have to tell you, it was a bit of an exciting moment for me in my life when this policy passed. I'd given 8 years of my life, like I said, to pushing UC, mostly as a volunteer, and only the last year of that time as a full-time web accessibility person. And I'm not kidding, it came down to the last minute. President Yudof had always supported web accessibility. He actually has a personal friend that was his roommate in college who was blind. So he believed in web accessibility, but he pretty much left it up to us to come up with the policy and leave things and set things up. And I was told officially that the policy was the last piece of paper on his desk, and he signed it before he left. It was, you know, I was told, okay, Friday is his last day at the office, but he's not doing any work on Friday, so if we don't see anything by Tuesday, we're not getting it. And Tuesday afternoon came around, and I went into a complete solemn depression. I mean, you can ask Tom, he saw me sulking around the office. Wednesday, nothing. I got a call at 2 p.m. that Thursday afternoon saying, we have a signature, and it was the dance of joy. I held a party that weekend. So it was a policy, and it was a big achievement because the policy is actually a very good policy. It has flexibility in it, but it also gives direction.
Slide 6. What does the policy say? Same question.
So the policy says that UC must be accessible to all members of its community and beyond. UC will strive to have its websites meet the WCAG 2.0 standard. UC will place the most emphasis on new purchases and new development, as that will have the most lasting effect. Each campus can devise its own strategy to implement the policy and create an organizational infrastructure to train, purchase, and develop to ensure accessibility.
So does that cover what I just said, pretty much? Yeah. So let's talk about the things that I haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about the last bullet points on this slide. The policy says it covers new purchases and new development. That is an incredibly significant statement because a lot of people have created accessibility policies that then require people to go back and do a lot of revisionist work and go through and, oh my God, we've got thousands of pages on the internet, what are we going to do? We're not forcing you to do that. We're not insisting that you go back and do that because we know that the web specifically and technology in general is such a fluid thing. We want to focus 100% on moving forward. So purchasing is the #1 priority. And that's because most of the stuff we deal with in this campus is purchased. You know, we use copies of Microsoft Office on a daily basis. We use applications that are purchased for us to do our jobs. You know, everything you do here on campus is purchased. So if we purchase accessible products, that means a majority of the stuff that we're already doing is accessible. And development, and that's why we're here today. Because, quick show of hands, how many people actually work on websites or develop websites or develop applications here in the room?
Most of the room.
Most of the room, exactly. That's why we're here today, because we're here to support you to create and develop accessible content for the future. We don't want you to go back and fix other your site. There might be something you could fix really quick if it's going to be around for a while, but we're more interested that as you move forward, you create accessible content in the future, and that you learn to create accessible content, because we don't want it just doing it because you have to. We want you to understand that it's actually something that you can do that will make your product not only accessible, but better.
Slide 7. What does the policy mean for Berkeley? Bullet.
Okay.
So for website and content owners, this means that all site content should be accessible. For web developers, websites and products should be built with accessibility in mind. For buyers, products purchased from external vendors should be accessible. For users of technology, there are resources available for users to improve their experiences with technology.
That's what our team's guiding principles are. Those are the guiding principles of our team. You know, the content on your website should be accessible. If you have content on your site and nobody can use it, why do you have that content on your site? And when I'm saying nobody, I'm giving a generalized nobody. You know, you might be able to use the content because you put it there. But say the audience that you need to address is a person who's deaf and hard of hearing, and you put a video up, and that video has no captions on it. Well, that person can't access your content. Why did you put it up if that's who your audience is? So that's primarily, these are our principles. That you should train and you should develop your skills to create accessible content. That's important because it's going to actually make you a better person. In this day of, working at Berkeley, a lot of us are here for a short time, not like the old-time people who worked at Berkeley for 40, 50 years. We're not sure where we're going to be in 5 or 6 years. Adding accessibility to your resume is a pretty important trait because the industry is starting to demand accessibility. And purchasing accessibly, well, I talked about that already. We are working with purchasing teams. We want purchasing teams to come to us when they're looking at products, and we can help you decide which product you should purchase that's the most accessible.
Slide 8, screen reader demo. Both how different people access the web.
Okay, everybody take a breath. We're done with all the lecturing. Everybody relaxed now? I'm now going to switch over to the screen reader demo.
Alt-Tab, web accessibility is architecture.
Did the pop-up come up?
It did not.
Fabulous. Okay. All right. So you've heard this term. Yes, shut up. Thank you. All right. You've heard the term screen reader thrown around the room already today. Is there anybody in the room who doesn't know what a screen reader is? Say aye. Don't put your hands up. It's okay. Don't be ashamed. Not very many people know what a screen reader is. The only reason I'm asking is if there's absolutely nobody, I'll skip that part of my talk. Kidding, I'm going to talk about it anyways, because we might have people online who can't put their hands up. Okay. So a screen reader is a generic term for an application used by a blind or visually impaired person to access content on a computer screen or a mobile device screen. Through commands given to the device of choice, yes, I'm reading a technical definition out of my head. Through commands given to the device of choice, i.e. by the keyboard or through specific gestures designed for such, a blind or visually impaired person can command the device to verbally speak or send information to a refreshable braille display so that they can access the information on the screen. Okay, that's the technical definition. What does it really mean? It means that me, a totally blind person, standing here in front of you, and, I don't know, I fake it pretty well, but you probably all guessed I'm totally blind. I can't see the screen sitting in front of me. I can't see the screen projected over there. The screen reader I use allows me to do things like go to the menu bar on the computer. It allows me to read through this website. If I'm using Word, it allows me to edit it, then read the spell check, all kinds of things like that. The screen reader typically reads a page left to right and down, left to right and down. So what does that do on the internet? Well, as you can see on our website, which is what's up in front of you here, by the way, is it maximized already?
Yes.
Okay, good. If you see on our website where we have sidebars, we have navigation, we have all sorts of little blocks and little panels throughout the page. Can you imagine that being read left to right and down with no, all the content being jumbled in together? Pretty distracting and pretty incomprehensible. So what the software does is it reads the source code of the page and renders that into a virtual portion of memory in a vertical column, and it interprets how it should be displayed in that vertical column by the order of the source code. Okay, getting away from the technical again. What that means is when you create your source code for a web page, you need to do it in an orderly fashion. If you have, say, a team of 100 people working on a different website, I know that never happens at Berkeley, but we can talk about something like healthcare.gov, where they had hundreds of teams working on it, and all of you submit your code, and your code kind of goes in random in chunks here and in chunks there. Well, that's going to be read in that order to the screen reader user, because that's the only way the screen reader actually can interpret. I mean, there's tricks you can use via coding, but that's even more complexity that you don't want to add. So the screen reader takes the source code and it literally renders it in memory in the order it appears. So what do? Well, you put your most important content near the top of your source code and all your supplementary material near the bottom. And you kind of try and determine how do you want to disseminate this information to the screen reader user, or to any user? What do you think is the most important? What do you think is the least important? And put it in that order for you. So now that I've talked about that, I'm going to give you a very, very quick listen to it. I'm going to slow the voice down.
Slower, slower, slower.
And Carolyn, stop cringing. Carolyn's been working with me long enough that she can actually listen to the voice at the speed I listen to it. So she doesn't like it when I slow it down, just so everybody knows. All right, so I'm going to let you quickly listen to it so you can get a chance to hear the screen reader. And I want to see if any of you can hear the features that kind of pop out right off the bat that are there to help a screen reader user. And then don't worry, I'm not going to quiz you, I'm just going to walk you through it. So here we go at the top of the page, listening to the whole page.
Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, and integration. Visited same page link jump to navigation banner visited link graphic University of California. Berkeley is architecture, platforms, and integration visited link web accessibility search terms edit submit search button banner and name region heading level 2. What does web accessibility mean for you? The University of California's visited link information technology accessibility policy effective August 27. 2013 states that all campus websites and web applications should be accessible to people with disabilities, including those who use assistive technologies. What does this mean for Berkeley? List of 4 items. Bullet for website and content owners. All site content should be accessible. Bullet for web developers. Websites and products should be built with accessibility in mind. Period.
Okay, so that's enough. So there were several elements that popped out there to me, but you're probably not used to it, most of you, so let's go to the top now and we're going to go through that really quickly. How did that voice sound to all of you? Was it too fast still? Too slow. Nobody's asking you. Oh, well, Steve, thank you. You can tell who's been on our volunteer group forever. All right, so let's go really quickly now. So I'm just going to hit the tab key at the top of this page.
Healthy dessert recipes.
Uh-oh, there it is. Sorry, my machine seems to have developed a virus today.
It's not showing up visually.
So.
Link healthy dessert link prepaid sub link vision impairment escape. Tab accessible web design link. Tab browser tab toolbar. Web accessibility is architecture. Tab navigate tab search or enter tab search using Google edit tab. Web accessibility is architecture. Tab jump to that.
There we go. Okay.
Shift.
All right. Sorry, we don't know. Literally, this started happening at 11:30 this morning. We don't know what's going on, and I apologize. So, moving on, we're going to ignore it. So here we go. Here's the first thing that happens when I hit the tab key.
Tab, jump to navigation, same page link visited.
So you see at the very top left-hand corner, I believe, is of the page, there's a jump to navigation link. Now, what is that? Jump to navigation. It's coded as a skip nav, or a skip link or a jump link. And that link is there to specifically give people who need keyboard access to the page a quick way to jump down. Anna, are you there pointing by any chance?
No, I can't.
Oh, okay, could you go point, please? Thank you. So this is giving a keyboard-only user, sorry, I'm going to get her to do a Vanna, and we didn't rehearse this, so give her a break. This is to give keyboard users a quick way to get to the meat of the page and the links that they're going to want to get to, because some people have difficulty using a keyboard, or using a mouse, sorry. You know, so 95% of people may use the internet through the mouse. But what I found in my time as an accessibility technology person in the disabled students programs especially, that 5 out of every 6 students I saw came to me because they couldn't use a mouse anymore. Students use their computers so often that they're starting to suffer from carpal tunnel, repetitive strain injury, tendinitis. Football players broke a shoulder, all kinds of reasons that they couldn't use their computer, and they needed another way to use it than a mouse. You know, maybe they did have use of their hand enough that they could type, but the very difficult, strong control that's needed for a mouse is even harder than typing. So these skip to links give people the access to the page without having them do like this. So if I didn't have this skip link, let's see how long it takes me to get to the policy link. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Responsibilities of the Berkeley campus community visited link. Web access calendar on B.
So the links, the link, you know, it's too many tabs. So what we did was we put this jump link in the page. I'm going back up to the top.
Web accessibility is not a tab. Jump to navigation, same page link visited.
And I'm going to click enter on that link.
Enter, visited, same page link, jump to navigation.
And it moved down to what we consider is the navigation links, the one that will let you go through our site. Can you point to that section, Anna?
I can. And actually, visually, it's a little bit
link
down.
web
There we go.
accessibility at UZ. Visited link evaluating your site. Visited link resources.
And these are the links that you guys are going to be interested in. And Anna's going to cover these more in her part of the presentation. But this is, you know, this is just to show you that a skip link actually works. So let's go back up to the top again, because everything's at the top, isn't it? So now I'm going to move past that skip to link.
Blank. Visited same page link blank. Banner.
Banner. You don't even see that on the page anywhere, do you? Anybody see the word banner? No. Can you all guess what portion of the page it's referring to? Yeah, it's referring to the banner. So as a screen reader user, we've put something in the source code that tells me that that's the banner of the page. Well, you know what? I'm a busy person. I don't care about the banner. And the fact that it's a banner tells me that it's a region, which means if there's one region on the page, there's probably more. So I'm going to say jump to the next region with the R on the keyboard.
Main region.
And it brought me to the main region. Let's see if that's actually the main region of the page.
Heading level 2, what does web accessibility mean for you? Blank. The University of California. Visited link information technology accessibility.
Everybody agree that that's the main content of the page? Yeah, so we gave a screen reader the ability to jump quickly to the main region of the page. I can actually use a keyboard command that says just go to the main region. It would have skipped the banner. If we'd put nav bars, if we'd put more menu structure at the top, I could have jumped over all of it with one keystroke. Lovely.
Web.
Other things that we can skip to on a page is I can go heading by heading.
What does web accessibility mean for you? Heading level 2. Events and mailing list, heading level 2. Is your website accessible? Heading level 2.
And you can see those headings on the page. They clearly look like headings visually. And it gives me the ability as the screen reader user to jump through the pages, get an outline of the page. I can bring up the headings list.
Heading list dialog.
I'll be damned, isn't it an outline of what our content is? Very nice. You'll see that they all have numbers on them. One of the big accessibility problems we see people doing is that they use CSS and they make the headings look the way they want them to, and they choose, say, an H3 because an H3 looks the way they want it to, but then they don't realize that there's no H1 or H2 on the page. What do you think that does to the screen reader user who's trying to figure out the outline of the page? Yeah. Where did it go? What did I miss? Something's gone. Did I miss something? So also it helps with your SEO if you have good heading structure. We like to say at the Web Access team, Google is blind. And by the way, that's been coined now. That's out there on the internet. We were the first ones to say it. Google uses things like H1s, H2s, H3s to determine how high up in the ranking something should be. So if you code your content to have the most important thing at an H2, H3, and then have your, supplementary material at 4s and 5s, your SEO is going to be better.
SEO.
SEO, sorry. I pronounce it the way Jaws does, and I often pronounce it incorrectly. Okay, so let's talk about one of the other most frequently abused things done incorrectly on the internet.
Links list dialog. Links list view. Web access. So
90% of screen reader users access web pages strictly through the links list. Because of the fact that, because of what I told you earlier, where there's nav bars and there's structure at the top, a lot of screen reader users still aren't used to doing the jump by heading and jump by regions because those are relatively new features. They've only been available for about a year and a half now. So they use links list, and even though their screen readers have those features, let me be frank, screen reader users don't know how to use their tools. They're extraordinarily complex tools, and by the way, we do not recommend that any of you go out and try and learn how to use a screen reader. There are thousands of ways to use a screen reader and the keystrokes, and ultimately, you don't need it, and you cheat. You know, you can turn off your monitor, but when you hit the frustration point, you know you're going to reach for that switch. And you can still see what you want on the page, and you can still bring your mouse to it and then get the screen reader to read it. You know, it's not going to emulate what a screen reader user does. You have every single key on this keyboard has 8 functions to my screen reader. So don't bother trying to learn it. We're here to do that for you. Test for you. So in this links list, you'll notice that every link is fairly unique, very explicit, very descriptive. We've got links like
Self-assessment. Web accessibility services at UC Berkeley.
Nice, clean, concise links. There's 3 good reasons to make your links like this. One is they're good links. I mean, it's good coding, first of all. But if you put a good label on your link that says where it's going to, it's going to make it easy for a person to click on it. It's going to make it easy for the person to interpret where they're going. The next one is say you just use a file name, because that's what the screen reader defaults to if you don't put a good label on your link. What benefit is it for me to hear that I'm going to page2.jp.this.that? What does that tell me? It told me you didn't care. It told me that, you know, you provided a link to a file on your server, and that file is what? I don't know. So the link label is very, very important. But it's also really important to make the links be concise like this. So if I wanted to find a specific link on this page, say I wanted to find resources, I have the ability when I have this list up on the screen to hit the letter R.
R, resources.
And I jump to it immediately. Hopefully it wasn't the next one down and everybody thought I was cheating. But you see, it was just very easy. I mean, if I wanted to go to web accessibility.
W, web accessibility at UC.
See, easy, easy, easy for me to find the link I want. Return visitors who know what link they're looking for can get to it really quickly by using the links list. Another reason to make your links short and concise like this is for people using speech access. That means a person who might not be able to access their computer except by talking to it. So the person has no use of their hands now. Forget the fact that they can hit the keyboard. All they can do is talk to their computer. If you made this link, for example, web accessibility at UC, the new way today, come and see it. A person using speech input would have to say, click web accessibility at UC, the new way to do it. And the dictation software would fail, because dictation software wants you to be concise and precise and say only 2 or 3 words when you're giving a command. A command in speech dictation software needs to be something like, click web accessibility, click home, click this, click that. And if you add so much verbosity to your link, like, you know, title of article, date, author is the entire link, you've made that almost inaccessible to a person using speech dictation. Another way they could get to it is by saying, you know, show mouse grid, and then it does a 9x9 grid on the page, and then zoom into 2, say it's a zone 2 that it's in, then it brings that zone 2 to 9x9, zoom into 2, zoom into 5, and, you know, depending on how complex your page is, they might have to zoom in 100 times before they get to the link they need. And then finally say, you know, click 3 when the link is finally focused in zone 3. Do you want somebody going through that to get to a link on your page? Make your links concise and simple and to the point. The worst failing on the internet today, and the thing I call the most offensive, and it's still out there, although it's getting better, is the click here link. Come on. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. You don't have to say that. How many of you have a click here on your website? Yeah, yeah. Click here tells me that, what am I going to? Here. Yeah, here. Well, I'm here, so I'm gone. I'm done. I'm leaving your web page. We're finished. Click here is, because it's out of context, the most important thing is, remember I said people look at this links list and that's all they get to. So click here is out of context. What do I get if I click here? I don't know, so I'm not clicking it, because maybe click here and your computer will be infected with 25,000 viruses. What? Yeah. Well, I mean, it happens. We know it. So don't use click here's. Try not to use mores. And put the information to the front, because again of that first letter protocol. One of the other things is we could have said, you know, UC Berkeley web accessibility, UC Berkeley this. Then how would I have gotten to the web accessibility link? I would have had to drive me nuts. Okay, so now we're going to go to my favorite page on our website.
A, about. A, accessibility state. A, accessible web design. A, ask the can.
This is my favorite page on this website, and the person whose idea and brainchild it was is in the room today. Steve, stand up.
Most visited types of assistive text. Ask the can.
Oops, give me 1 second.
Okay, get that stupid thing. Pecan is doing phenomenal. She couldn't enjoy retirement more. All right, so I've been told to remind everybody who Pecan is, for those of you who don't know who she is. Pecan is my former guide dog. You all see Frances sitting up there at the front with Tom. Frances is the current guide dog. She's only been working with me since December. But Pecan was my old guide dog, and I got Pecan a month after the web accessibility team started meeting at Berkeley, and I think I only had her for one meeting for one meeting before we had our very first clinic ever. So Pecan has been to every web access meeting I've been to. She was my loyal companion, and everybody on the team cares about her and loves her. And what we wanted was a place where people could go, and we thought we would have like a Dear Abby-like portion of our web page. You know, I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know the answer to this question. Pecan, how do I? Pecan, what do you do? So we have the Ask Pecan section of our webpage. Doesn't she look cute there?
She's waiting for your call.
She's waiting for your call. We actually encourage people to write the web access team and in the subject put, you know, question for Pecan, and we will try and answer it. And the answers that, you know, we can actually put nice little posts about, we will put on our webpage. So that's who Pecan is, and that's what this portion of our webpage is. And this is meant to show you that, you know, we are actually a fun team. We are really a fun team.
Links list dialog.
So I can quickly jump to the articles, and again, I'm just going to demonstrate the links list.
W, web accessibility. W, web access Berkeley. Edu. W, what is a screen reader anyway?
And that's our first article. We're going to link, put a video in there as well, but it's just, let me just quickly show it to you.
What is a screen reader anyway?
And that's Pecan's first post. Sorry.
If it all went perfectly, it would just be too easy,
Great.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness gracious. There we go.
But that's actually the end of the screen reader demo.
Screen reader anyway. Web accessibility.
So see, Pecan tries
Do
to
you know
answer.
your
Oh,
blue
God, I'm so
scraps from
sorry.
your
I'm
bottles
so
and
sorry.
cans? Here's your chance to prove it. Win prizes, learn
Anybody know how to get rid of that?
Okay. Anyway, that was the end of the screen reader demo anyway.
So now I'm going to hand the.
Insightfully knowledge
My computer.
Okay, you want me to just turn this computer off?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So